Okay, guys, today is 7D, the last part of our transformations lesson. So we will be having a quiz over this soon. Today we are doing dilations, which is the last type of transformation. So a dilation is the enlargement or the reduction of a figure. So basically making it larger or smaller, okay, making it bigger or smaller. So the scale factor, and that's pretty much what you multiply by. The scale factor indicates how much the figure will enlarge or reduce. And I'm going to put a little note here, and the scale factor is what you multiply by. Okay, so the variable for the scale factor we use as k. So when the scale factor, or k, is larger than 1, the dilation is an enlargement. So it's going to make the figure bigger if it's bigger than 1. And when k, or the scale factor, is smaller than 1, the dilation is going to be a reduction. So we'll be multiplying by a fraction or a decimal there. And that's going to make the figure smaller. Okay, so for the first one here, we've got triangle triangle RST. And we've got it at -5, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, +1, -3, +4, and t is at 2, -1. So this triangle, we have a scale factor of 2. So we're going to take all of our points and multiply them by 2. So we're going to take our x, multiply it by 2, and our y and multiply it by 2. So our new point r is going to be -10, and then 1 times 2 is 2. And then for s, multiply it by 2 by 2. We've got -3 times 2 is -6. 4 times 2 is 8. And then t times 2 times 2, we've got 2 times 2 is 4, and -1 times 2 is -2. So this is going to be an enlargement. We're making it bigger because the scale factor is above 1. So plotting that new figure, we have r, which is at -10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, +1, 2. This is our new r. -6, +8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then t is at +1, 2, 3, 4, and -1, 2. So we just basically doubled the size of that triangle. Great. Moving on to number 2, you have a rectangle that you're going to have a scale factor of 3. So we're going to multiply everything by 3. So plotting the rectangle ABCD, we've got -3, 0. B is 1, 2. C is 2, 0. And D is -2, -2. So basically, with the scale factor of 3, we're going to triple it in size. We're going to make it 3 times bigger. So taking the x and the y and multiplying it by 3. So taking this by 3, this by 3, that's going to be -9, and 0 times 3 is still 0. Times 3 times 3, so that's going to be 3, 6. Times 3 times 3, so that's going to be 6, 0. And the last one, times 3 times 3, that's going to be -6, -6. And it's okay if some of these points are still on the 0, it's still going to enlarge it in size. So -9, 0 is our new A. 3, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be 6, 0. And -6, -6. -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then point B. drawing that new figure with a dilation. It's now 3 times larger. Great. So moving on to number 3. Now we're going to have a figure that's going to be smaller because our scale factor is 1/2. So now we have to multiply everything by 1/2. And this is where we can use a calculator. So first, let's get our original figure drawn. So we have a rhombus JKLM, which is -10, +2. K is -1, 2, +8. L is 6, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And M is -1, 2, -1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to take my calculator, and I need to multiply everything by 1/2. So here, 1/2 is just 1 divided by 2. Oops, I thought I did it. 1 divided by 2. There we go. Equals 0.5. So 1/2 is the same as 0.5. So I'm going to take everything and multiply it by 0.5. So if I take 10 and I multiply it by 0.5, I get 5. So my new point for J is -5. Okay, and then 2 times 0.5 is 1. So the other point for J is 1. So go ahead and do those on your calculator now, finding the new coordinates. Okay, so if you multiplied everything by 0.5, you should have gotten -1, 4, 3, 1, and -1, -2. Okay, so where we left off, now we got to plot our new figure. So we have -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, +1. K, which is -1, +1, 2, 3, 4. L, 1, 2, 3, 1. And then M, which is -1, -1, 2. So you can tell that we reduced the size of that figure. We made it smaller by multiplying it by a fraction or a decimal. Okay, moving on to number 4. We've got a triangle, and the scale factor is going to be 1/4. So again, we're going to be multiplying by 1/4, or whatever the decimal is with that. So let's plot the first one, which is -1, 2, 3, 4, +8. W. X is 10, 0. And Y is -2, -8. Okay, so multiplying everything by 1/4, and I would just prefer to use decimals, so I'm going to take 1 divided by 4 and turn that into a decimal, and that's 0.25. So I'm going to take everything and multiply it by 0.25. So 4 times 0.25 is 1. So here we've got -1. Getting my calculator out of the way. And then the next one we have to do for W is 8. So 8 times 0.25 is 2. So the second point for W is 2. So you guys go ahead and multiply the rest of those coordinates by 0.25. So you should have gotten 2.5 for X and 0, and then 0.5 and -2. And it's okay if we get decimals. It's okay. We can still plot that. We know 0.5 is equivalent to a half. So for our new figure, W is at -1, +1, 2. 2.50. So we go over 1, 2, and a half and stay at 0. So it's going to be in between the lines there. And then Y is going to be 0.5. So we go over to 0.5 and down 1, 2. So there's our new Y. So as you can tell, we made that figure much smaller, a fourth of the size. All right, so go ahead and turn the page. We are going to move on to number 5. Okay, in number 5, we have a scale factor of 5/2. So, figuring out that scale factor as a decimal, we would do 5 divided by 2 and get 2.5. So I'm going to use 2.5 as my scale factor there to work with my calculator. So plotting the first figures, the square DEF, I've got 0, 0, which is here. E, which is 2 up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. F, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. And then G, which is positive 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, 2. So I know our graph is not perfectly centered, but that's okay because something's going to happen when we enlarge it. Okay, so the first point, D, both of them are 0. When we multiply anything by 0, we're going to get 0. So we could take 2.5 times 0. We're still going to get 0. So the first point, D, is exactly the same, 0, 0. But it's still going to enlarge, I promise. I'll show you. So 2 for point E, we have to take 2 times 2.5, and we get 5. And then the second point is 4, so 4 times 2.5 and get 10. Okay, so you guys do the rest, multiplying it by the scale factor of 2.5. Okay, so you should have gotten 15.5 for F and 10, negative 5 for G. So plotting that new figure, D is at the same point, 0, 0. E is going to be at a new point, positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 10. Oh, no, I gotta count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Point E. And then F is at 15.5. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. And then G is at 10, negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So although that point D stayed, the figure still got 2.5 times bigger. Okay, moving on to number 6. Actually, I'm going to have to stop the video here because I'm almost out of time, so continue on to the next video.